You have lived here for nearly 5 years, and yet, sometimes, it feels like you're still a guest in your own home. The house is not new. Its bones are tired but not broken, its walls faded but still holding the stories of people who came before you. At night, it hums with a kind of quiet that is almost too complete, except for the low, steady buzz of the fridge downstairs and the soft, methodical ticking of the wall clock in the hallway. It's that hallway that always makes you pause when you pass it after dark. The upstairs corridor is narrow, lined with framed photos, memories of people smiling in bright daylight, but at the far end, there's a door. It is painted the same pale cream as the others, fitted with a brass handle dulled by time. Supposedly, it's just a storage closet. You've told guests that yourself, when they asked about it. You can't recall the last time you opened it. Maybe when you first moved in. Maybe never. The door has always been closed. That's just how it is. And yet lately, it feels different. You notice it without realizing you've noticed, the way your eyes drift to it when you pass, how you sometimes think you see the faintest change in its outline in the dim light. You shake it off every time. It's just a door. But tonight, something is keeping you awake. It's late, later than you meant to stay up. The TV is off, the dishes are done, and you should be asleep. Instead, you find yourself standing in the hallway, the amber glow of the nightlight barely stretching past the first few picture frames. You don't even remember walking here. Your gaze goes down the length of the corridor to that door at the very end. For a moment, you're sure it's not quite flush with the frame, like it's been nudged from the inside. The thought is absurd, but you can't stop staring. You imagine the feel of the cold brass handle, the creak of the hinges, but you don't move. You turn away, forcing yourself back toward your bedroom, telling yourself that tomorrow you'll laugh about this. And yet, as you close your bedroom door behind you, you can't shake the image of that one door, quietly waiting. The morning is uneventful, but the memory of last night clings to you. You chalk it up to being tired, to your mind playing tricks on you. Still, as you pass through the hallway in the daylight, you glance at the door. The brass handle catches the sun from the window behind you, dull but not dead. You pause for longer than you mean to. Something nags at you. It takes a few seconds before you realize the faint scratch mark near the base of the frame wasn't there before. It's thin, about the length of your finger, and so shallow you can barely feel it when you run your hand over it. Maybe you just never noticed it. The house is old, after all. Things like that happen over time. But when you crouch down to look closer, you find another mark, smaller, more like a nick in the paint. Then another. Tiny imperfections you can't remember ever seeing. The thought comes unbidden, from the inside. You straighten up quickly, shaking it off again, telling yourself it's ridiculous. You walk away. That night, you wake to the faintest sound, something between a creak and a sigh. It's distant, muffled, but it's enough to make your eyes snap open. Your ears strain for it again. The house is still, but not silent. There's a sound you can't quite name. Not footsteps, not wind, not pipes shifting. Something softer. You sit up, holding your breath, and after a long moment, it stops. You lie back down, eyes open in the dark. Your thoughts drift, uninvited, to the door at the end of the hallway. Sleep doesn't come easily after that. You turn over again and again, each position less comfortable than the last. The clock's red digits seem to drag their way toward morning. At some point, you give in to curiosity, or maybe it's something closer to compulsion. You slip out of bed, the floorboards cool beneath your feet. The hallway is darker than usual, the night light at the far end casting a thin, tired glow. You hesitate at your bedroom door before stepping out, your eyes adjusting to the gloom. The photographs on the wall seem almost unfamiliar in the dim light, faces slightly distorted by shadow. You walk slowly, each step making the old boards groan. The air feels heavier here, cooler. When you reach the end of the hallway, you stop a few feet short of the door. In the low light, it looks no different than it ever has, and yet the longer you stare, the more you're sure of it, it's open. Not wide, but just enough for a sliver of darkness to peek through. Your breath catches. You don't remember it being open. You don't remember touching it. You reach out, hand trembling slightly, and nudge it closed. The latch clicks quietly, but in the silence of the hallway, it might as well be a gunshot. You retreat back to your room, heart pounding harder than you'd like to admit. In the stillness of your bed, you listen for any sound from the hallway. None comes. Eventually, you drift into an uneasy, shallow sleep, where your dreams are nothing but endless corridors and closed doors. You wake the next morning to soft light spilling through the curtains, the usual sounds of the house stirring, pipes groaning faintly as they warm, the faint hum of something electrical deep in the walls. Everything feels routine enough, but the moment your bare feet hit the cold floor, you notice it again, the awareness of that door at the far end of the hallway. It's almost like your body knows it's there before your mind catches up. You linger by your bedroom doorway, staring toward it, though it's still just a pale rectangle in the morning dim. You tell yourself it's nothing. Just an old door in an old house. But when you step into the hallway, something feels different. The stretch of carpet between you and it feels longer, like the shadows between each doorway have more weight to them. The air is cooler, too. You take a few steps and glance back toward your room, and you swear the distance between you and the stairs feels farther now than it did moments ago. You walk the hallway again just to shake it off, but each time your eyes flick toward that door, you get the same quiet unease in your stomach. You never touch the knob. You never even get close enough to. And yet, halfway through brushing your teeth, you realize that the faint hum in the walls seems to be louder here, in the hallway, than anywhere else in the house. You tell yourself it's all in your head. That morning light plays tricks, that memory is unreliable, that houses shift and creak and settle. But when you go to bed that night, you swear the hallway outside your door is longer than it was yesterday. And the door, it seems just a little closer to you. It's a few days later when you first notice the change. Not a big change, nothing you could take a photo of and prove to anyone else, but enough that your stomach knots the moment you see it. The color of the door has darkened. Not by much. Not like it's been painted overnight. More like the wood itself is aging in fast forward. Where it used to be a pale, chipped white, it now has the faintest yellow-brown tint, like paper left too long in the sun. You stare at it for a long time, trying to remember exactly what it looked like before. You're certain it wasn't like this. The thought nags at you all day. By the time evening comes and the shadows stretch across the hallway, you notice something else. The knob looks older too. The brass is tarnished, duller than it used to be, as though it's been touched by 1,000 hands that weren't yours. You don't mention it to anyone. You barely even let yourself think about it. But every time you pass it, you feel a strange pull in your chest. You start catching yourself slowing down as you walk by, your hand twitching ever so slightly toward the knob. It's not curiosity exactly, it's more like a quiet, insistent pressure, a thought that doesn't feel like it came from you. That night, lying in bed, you think you hear something from the hallway. It's so faint that at first you dismiss it as the house settling. But then it comes again. A tiny, almost inaudible scrape, like the soft brush of metal against wood. You hold your breath. And when you finally exhale, you swear you hear something else, a slow, shallow breath that doesn't match your own. You close your eyes and tell yourself you imagined it. But in the morning, when you pass the door, you notice the tiniest sliver of space between it and the frame. As though it's not completely closed anymore. That night, you dream of the hallway. But it's not quite your hallway. The walls are the wrong shade of white, more gray, and the air feels damp, like the plaster is sweating. The carpet is darker too, wet in some places, though you can't tell why. You hear the same hum from the waking world, but now it's deeper, like the sound of a faraway generator or something alive breathing slowly. The dream pulls you forward, past your own bedroom door, past the walls that seem to bend inward slightly as though the hallway itself is narrowing. And at the very end, the door is there. Only now it's not the pale, aging thing from your home, it's heavy, blackened wood, the surface rippled as though it's been scorched and cooled again. The knob isn't brass anymore, but something darker. Wet-looking. In the dream, you know with absolute certainty that you shouldn't touch it. Every instinct screams to turn back, but your body keeps moving, drawn closer step by step. The hum grows louder, almost rhythmic, and you realize it's matching your own heartbeat. When you're just an arm's length away, you see something shift in the wood, a pulse, slow and steady, as though the door itself has something living inside. You wake with your heart pounding, your sheets twisted around you. Your mouth is dry, and for a few seconds you can't tell if you're still dreaming. The hum is still in your ears. You try to shake it off, but when you glance toward your bedroom door, you notice that the hallway outside is darker than it should be. Too dark for this early in the morning. And you swear, though you don't want to believe it, you can still feel the pulse in your fingertips. The hallway feels heavier now. You haven't moved from where you froze after hearing that faint, deliberate tap from behind the closed door. Your breath is slow but jagged, like your body is trying to decide if it should calm down or prepare to run. The air is thick, not in temperature, but in presence. That tap wasn't loud. It wasn't aggressive. It was soft, almost polite, but not in the way a friend might knock. It felt more like the sound had waited for you to be listening before it announced itself. You tell yourself you imagined it. That's the only way to move. But when you take a careful step toward the stairs, something in you insists on glancing back at the door. That's when you notice it. The gap beneath the frame, the one you never paid attention to before, is darker than it should be. Not the normal shadow from the hallway light, but a darkness that seems to absorb the glow instead of casting any reflection. It's so black it almost looks like a solid shape lying against the floor. You want to look away, but something stirs in that darkness. It's not movement in the usual sense. It's a shift. A subtle distortion, like the way heat bends air above asphalt, except instead of blurring the image, it's making everything beyond the gap seem sharper. Too sharp. The wooden floorboards on the other side look newer, glossier, like they've been freshly polished. You blink, and they're gone, replaced with the dim, dust-heavy void you expect from an old storage closet. You back away now, heartbeat thumping in your ears. Every creak from the floor under your feet sounds too loud, too exposed. You don't want to be near that door anymore. You don't even want to walk past it. But the stairs are on the opposite end of the hall, and the only way to get there is to pass right by that gap. Your feet hesitate, your mind running scenarios. If you walk quickly, you might feel it, the sense of something brushing against your ankle. If you walk slowly, you might hear something whisper your name. And yet standing still feels worse. You force your body into motion, keeping your eyes straight ahead. The closer you get, the more you feel it. The temperature drops with each step. By the time you're parallel with the door, the air is cold enough to make your skin tighten. You don't hear a sound, but you feel a presence shift toward you from the other side. It's as if whatever's in there is aware you're trying to ignore it. You make it to the top of the stairs without looking back. The relief is small but noticeable, until you realize that the faint humming sound you've been hearing isn't coming from the fridge downstairs like you thought. It's coming from the door. A low, continuous hum, almost mechanical, almost alive. Downstairs, you move through the familiar space like it's foreign. The living room seems too wide, the corners too deep in shadow. You turn on more lights, but the glow feels dim, as if the bulbs are tired. You grab a blanket, trying to settle in on the couch, telling yourself you'll forget about the sound, the shadow, the strange polished floor. But when you close your eyes, your mind keeps replaying the gap, that perfect, unnatural darkness waiting just an inch away from the hallway air. Hours pass, or maybe just minutes. It's hard to tell because you're in that half state between dozing and waking, where thoughts and dreams start blending. You almost slip into sleep, until you hear it again. Knock. 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 This time it's not faint. This time it's slow, deliberate, and spaced out, as if counting your breaths. You sit up, pulling the blanket tighter around you. The sound is coming from upstairs. Not the front door. Not the side door. Upstairs. That door. You tell yourself not to move. You tell yourself it doesn't matter, that maybe it's the house settling. But the knock comes again, 3 times, exactly the same rhythm, exactly the same pressure. And somehow, it feels like it's no longer an invitation. It's a summons. The thought of ignoring it makes your chest tighten. Not because you feel guilty, but because a deep, irrational fear blooms in you. If you don't answer it, it might come down here instead. You don't know why you feel that way, but the certainty is there, heavy and real. The stairs look longer than they should as you climb them, each step an argument between curiosity and dread. Halfway up, the knocking stops. The silence is worse. At the top, you turn toward the hallway, and stop dead. The door is no longer just shut. It's ajar. Not wide, just enough for a sliver of darkness to leak out, pooling on the floor like ink spilled into the air. The cold is stronger now, prickling your skin. You expect to hear something from inside, breathing, shuffling, anything, but there's nothing. The silence presses against you, thick and expectant. You want to close it. That's your first instinct. Just push it shut and maybe even wedge something against it. But the darkness beyond the gap doesn't behave like a normal shadow. It looks layered, as if there's more depth in those few inches than should be possible. And somewhere deep in it, you think you see movement. Not quick, not sudden, just something shifting very, very slowly, like it's been moving toward the door for a long time. You step closer before you realize you've done it. Your feet betray you, carrying you to that threshold until you can feel the faint change in air pressure between the hallway and whatever's inside. That's when you hear it, not a voice, not exactly, but a sound shaped like words. It's not speaking aloud. It's speaking inside your head. We've been waiting. The plural freezes you. You don't want to know what "we" means. You don't want to know how many. You step back, heart pounding, eyes locked on that sliver of darkness. The door shifts slightly, as if pushed from within, and that blackness thickens. You think you smell something faint, damp earth, like the scent of soil after rain. And underneath it, the metallic tang of something sharper. You turn and walk away. Not fast enough to look scared. Not slow enough to seem brave. Just enough to get to your bedroom, shut the door, and lock it. You pull the covers around you like they can block out whatever you felt up there. But you know the truth. The knocking wasn't to get your attention. The door wasn't ajar by accident. It wanted you to know it could open on its own. And now it has. You keep your hand on the banister as you step slowly down the hallway, your socks sliding slightly against the wood floor. Every creak of the boards feels louder than it should, as though the house itself is paying attention. The faint warmth of the light from your bedroom fades behind you, replaced by the shadowy stretch ahead. The closed door at the end of the hall, that door, looks exactly as it always has, but your stomach knots as if you've been walking toward it for hours. The brass knob, dull with age, catches the light just enough to glint, as if it knows you're coming. Your pulse has shifted, no longer quick, but slow and heavy, each beat in your ears like the distant thud of something knocking inside a wall. The smell in the air is different here. Not dust, not wood polish, but something faintly metallic, faintly damp, like the scent after a rainstorm when the water has seeped into the soil. You tell yourself it's just your imagination. You've never opened that door, not once in all your time here. You've always assumed it was a storage closet, maybe stuffed with old boxes or paint cans from the previous owner. But now, the thought of what's behind it feels personal. You stop halfway down the hall. A wave of dizziness catches you, sudden and strange, as though you've stood up too fast. Your eyes adjust to the dim light, and for a heartbeat, the edges of the door seem softer, less sharp, as though the wood itself is breathing. You blink, and it's gone, plain old paint, plain old wood. But the sensation lingers. You glance over your shoulder, half expecting to see something behind you, but the hallway is empty. A small sound, so quiet you almost miss it, rises from the other side of the door. Not a knock, not exactly. More like a slow drag, as though fingertips are being pulled along the inside panel. The sound stops as soon as you notice it. The silence that follows is worse than the noise. You take a step back. The air feels heavier now, thick, like walking into a room with no ventilation. For a moment, you consider turning around and going back to your bedroom. You could close the door, pull the covers over yourself, and convince your mind it's all just late-night nerves. But there's something in your chest, not courage, exactly, and not curiosity. Something quieter, steadier. A pull. As though the door is not just waiting for you, but calling to you. Not with words, but with a steady, unspoken rhythm that matches the slow thud of your heartbeat. You realize your hands are trembling. You shove them into your pockets, partly to hide it from yourself. The light from the hallway fixture flickers, just once, barely noticeable. You force yourself to breathe evenly, to think logically. You tell yourself, it's a storage closet. That's all. The sound could be pipes settling. The smell could be mildew. The feeling could be nothing at all. But even as you think it, you're taking another step toward the door. The brass knob seems slightly higher than you remember, though you know that's impossible. Its tarnished surface has faint streaks, almost like fingerprints, though they're too long, too narrow. You hesitate just a foot away, and that's when you feel it, a faint warmth radiating from the wood, as though the room beyond isn't cold and empty but occupied. You don't move for several long seconds. Your ears strain for any sound at all. Then, there it is again. The dragging sound, slower this time. Closer. You take a step back without meaning to, your back pressing lightly against the wall behind you. The air smells stronger now, damp earth, metallic tang, and something faintly sweet, almost like rotting fruit. Your tongue tastes it before you realize you're breathing through your mouth. The feeling in your chest shifts. What was a steady pull becomes a low, insistent pressure, as though something on the other side is leaning toward you, matching your posture, mirroring your hesitation. You close your eyes for half a second, hoping the moment will pass. But when you open them again, the doorknob is tilted just a fraction, as though it's been turned from the other side. Every muscle in your body tenses. You wait for the sound of hinges, for the door to crack open. Nothing happens. The knob remains still, but you could swear it wasn't in that position before. A bead of sweat runs down your temple, and you become aware of the absolute stillness in the house. No fridge hum. No ticking clock. Nothing. Your throat is dry when you whisper, though you don't know why you speak at all, "Who's there?" The words vanish into the hallway, swallowed before they can reach the wood. You take another slow step forward, as if testing whether your legs will even hold you. The knob doesn't move, but that warmth from the door is stronger now, as though the space beyond is breathing heat into the hallway. Somewhere deep inside, a memory stirs. Not a full image, just a sensation, standing in this same hallway before, years ago, maybe when you first moved in. A night where you woke without reason, came to the door, and stood exactly like this. Only, back then, you'd walked away. This time, your hand rises without permission. Your fingertips brush the cold edge of the brass. The temperature shocks you, colder than ice, contradicting the warmth from the wood. The moment you touch it, the dragging sound inside stops completely. The silence is so complete it feels like the air has been sucked out of the hall. You hold your breath, waiting, but nothing happens. Then, in the faintest possible vibration, you feel it, the doorknob turning beneath your hand, just slightly, as though whatever is inside is adjusting its grip. You snatch your hand away and step back, your heart hammering against your ribs. The door does not open. You wait. The silence remains. And slowly, as though nothing happened at all, the hum of the fridge returns from downstairs. The ticking clock resumes, faint but steady. Your breathing begins to slow. You tell yourself to go back to bed, that you've gone far enough tonight. But as you turn to walk away, your peripheral vision catches something you can't ignore, the faintest ripple across the door's surface, like the shimmer of heat on a road. The pull hasn't gone. If anything, it's stronger. You hesitate before taking the first step out of your bedroom, gripping the doorframe as though it's the last solid thing in your world. The hallway stretches ahead exactly as it always has, same faded carpet, same crooked family photos hanging along the left wall, but tonight, something about it makes your chest tighten. You can see the door at the far end, the one you've been dreaming about, the one you swore you would never open. It's closed, still and silent, and yet the air around it shifts. It's subtle at first, almost imperceptible, but as you step forward you notice the movement in the air isn't caused by a draft, it's breathing. The long stretch of hallway is exhaling a faint, warm breeze toward you, then drawing it back in as though it's alive. Your pulse spikes. You tell yourself it's impossible, that it's just your imagination amplifying every sound, every shadow. And yet, the inhale feels stronger now, pulling at you, tugging your bare feet forward across the carpet fibers. Halfway down, you stop to test your theory. You stand perfectly still and watch. The hallway exhales again, brushing your skin with something that isn't quite wind. It smells faintly sweet, almost like old flowers crushed underfoot, a scent that doesn't belong here. The inhale comes again, deeper this time, carrying with it a faint sound, the wet, muffled shift of something moving just behind the door. Your mind screams at you to turn back. You picture your bed just steps away, the safety of shutting your own door and burying yourself beneath the blankets. But your body doesn't listen. Your toes curl against the carpet, but you keep walking, one slow step at a time. The breathing grows louder, more deliberate, like the hallway is aware of your approach and savoring the moment. The closer you get, the more the walls seem to change. The wallpaper, once a plain beige, ripples as though a current is passing underneath it. You think you see something pressing outward, distorting the surface, a handprint. No, too large for a human hand. It fades before you can be sure, sinking back into the wall's skin. Your heart is pounding so hard that you can feel it in your throat. The breathing now isn't just in the air, it's inside your chest, sinking with your own breaths, as if the hallway is guiding your rhythm. You try to slow it, to resist matching the pace, but the moment you do, the inhale from ahead becomes sharp and urgent, pulling harder, almost angry. You glance behind you, desperate to break eye contact with the door. The far end of the hallway where your bedroom waits feels impossibly far away now, like the space has stretched in your absence. The shadows seem thicker there, closing you in. You're trapped in this narrow space, and there's only one direction to go. Your fingertips brush the wall for balance, but the moment your skin meets the surface, you jolt. It's warm, not just room temperature warm, but the heat of something alive. A low vibration hums beneath it, and you realize with dawning horror that the walls aren't solid anymore. They pulse faintly beneath your touch, rising and falling with the same breathing you've been hearing. You yank your hand away, your stomach lurching. Now you're close enough to hear something else beyond the inhale and exhale. It's faint at first, like a whisper hidden inside a sigh, but it grows clearer with each breath. Words. Your name. The door is calling you by name, voice breaking like wine through a cracked window. You freeze mid-step. The air is thick now, syrupy, and every breath you take feels like it costs you something. The handle of the door gleams faintly, as though catching light from an unseen source. Your vision narrows until that's all you can see, silver and cold against the wooden frame. Your feet move again, unbidden, carrying you the last few steps. The breathing stops entirely. Silence slams into the hallway so suddenly that it feels deafening, and you realize with a fresh jolt of dread that the door is waiting. Your hand hovers over the handle, trembling. The air is too still now, the absence of breath making you dizzy. Every instinct tells you that touching it will change everything, that once you make contact, you won't be able to turn back. From the other side, something shifts. Not loud, just a quiet, deliberate step. You can feel it through the floorboards. It's standing right there, just inches away, separated from you by that thin layer of wood. And then, with all the care of something that knows exactly how to hold your attention, the breathing starts again. Slow. Steady. Pulling you in. You don't realize your fingers have closed around the cold metal until you feel it, slick with condensation, almost wet. Your breath catches. The door inhales one last time, deep and slow, and you understand in that moment that it isn't the hallway breathing. It's the thing behind the door. And it's been waiting for you to match its breath perfectly before it opens. You stand there frozen, your hand still on the knob, your breath fogging in the strange cold that now seeps from the small gap where the door no longer quite fits in its frame. Every instinct is screaming to back away, to shut it, to never think of it again. But something in that gap, something draws you closer. You lean in ever so slightly, and that's when you feel it. A soft rush of air, warm, damp, impossibly steady, brushing against your face like the slow exhale of a living thing. The door is breathing. The breath isn't random. It has a rhythm. A pattern. A slow inhale. A slow exhale. It doesn't match your own breathing, and that's what makes you most aware of it. It feels alien, out of sync with the world. For a moment you convince yourself it's some weird trick of airflow in the house, maybe from the vents. But when you move your head away and back again, the rhythm never changes. The inhale is always just a hair too long, the exhale always a hair too slow, as if conserving strength for something you don't want to imagine. You press your palm to the wood. It's warmer than the air around it now. Not uncomfortably hot, but like the skin of another person. You can feel the faintest vibration, like the faint thump of a heartbeat buried deep beneath the panels. Your mind starts to break it into words you don't want to hear. Alive. It feels alive. Your knees want to buckle, but you don't move. You lean in closer still, pressing your ear against the wood. That's when you hear it, not the hum of air conditioning, not the groan of old plumbing, but a wet, shifting sound, far beyond the door. It's as though something is moving in there. Not shuffling exactly. More like, rearranging itself. Your tongue feels dry, your chest tight. You whisper, why, you don't know, who's there. The moment the words leave your mouth, the breath stops. Instantly. The air turns still, so still you can hear the faint throb of blood in your own ears. Your stomach drops. 4-5 seconds, there's nothing. Not a single hint of movement or sound. Then, right as your body starts to convince itself it imagined the whole thing, the door inhales, sharply this time, like it's smelling you. You jerk back, hitting your shoulder against the opposite wall. The cold air rushes back, stronger now, smelling faintly of something metallic, something like rust or blood. You grip the banister to steady yourself, your breath ragged. The space between you and the door feels charged, electric, like the seconds before lightning strikes. You tell yourself you're going downstairs, you're leaving it alone. But your feet won't obey. Some deep part of you feels like if you walk away now, you'll hear it follow you, slowly, deliberately, and you'll never stop hearing it. You stay rooted. The door exhales again. This time, the warm air curls around you like invisible fingers, brushing the side of your neck. Your skin prickles and your vision narrows. You blink, and for the briefest moment, just long enough to question your sanity, you think you see the wood flex, bulging outward, as though something on the other side is pushing to meet you. Then it's gone, perfectly still again. And in the silence that follows, you swear you hear it whisper, not in words, but in the slow hiss of breath, something meant only for you. The night is heavier than before, as though the air itself has thickened into something that clings to your skin. The house, which has been groaning in soft whispers for days now, feels tense, bracing for something it can't hide from. The upstairs hallway stretches before you like a throat you're being swallowed down, each step sinking into creaking wood that groans in complaint. The light bulb above flickers again, but not its usual slow, lazy flicker. This time, the light is frantic, stuttering in sharp bursts, making your shadow twitch unnaturally along the walls. The door at the end of the hallway stands there, unchanged in shape, yet utterly changed in presence. You feel it before you even see it. The pressure, the strange weight pushing from the other side, is undeniable now. You pause halfway down the hall. It's silent, almost too silent, until you hear it. A knock. It's slow. Deliberate. Hollow, as if someone is knocking with their knuckles against the inside of a hollow tree. 3 times, the sound rolls through the hallway, vibrating faintly through the floorboards beneath your feet. You freeze, holding your breath. The moment it stops, you think it's over. It isn't. The knocking starts again. 3 knocks. Then silence. Then again. Always 3. The sound doesn't fade away like normal noise, it hangs, lingers, reverberates inside your bones. You back up slowly, but the moment your heel touches the top step of the staircase, the knocking changes. It quickens, sharper now, and you realize it's no longer coming from inside the door. It's coming from inside the hallway walls. You spin toward the nearest wall, your eyes darting across the faded wallpaper that seems to pulse ever so slightly under the flickering light. The knocking travels, a pattern that moves inside the walls, up toward the ceiling, then across to the opposite wall. It's like whatever is knocking is moving freely inside the structure of the house, following you. You stumble back, half falling down the first few steps, your hand gripping the banister. The house moans in a low rumble, as though unhappy you tried to retreat. You glance down the staircase toward the darkened living room, but something stops you. The knocking is no longer random. It's spelling something. 3 knocks. Pause. 2 knocks. Pause. 4 knocks. The pattern repeats. You don't understand it at first, but the longer you stand there, the more you realize it's trying to form a rhythm, like someone tapping out words in Morse code. Your mind races, trying to recall the patterns, your pulse quickening with each knock. Then it hits you, you think you can make out one word. Sleep. Your chest tightens. It's telling you to sleep. The thing inside the walls, inside the door, wants you unconscious. It wants you vulnerable. Your eyes flick to the door at the end of the hallway. It hasn't moved, but you swear the doorknob twitched. The knocking stops abruptly, the silence rushing in so quickly it almost makes your ears ring. You're left standing there in the dim light, breathing hard, heart pounding, waiting for the next sound. Instead, you hear something worse, the faint click of the door's latch. The door is unlocking itself. The air feels heavier tonight. That's the first thing you notice. It's not just the thick heat of the summer or the stillness of a windless evening, it's something pressing against your skin, like the atmosphere itself is swelling with expectation. Every sound in the house seems magnified. The tick of the wall clock in the living room feels sharper, faster, as though time itself is rushing towards something inevitable. You find yourself pacing, unable to sit still, unable to read, unable to scroll through your phone. The hallway is empty, the lights dim. That door at the far end is shut, as always, but tonight it's not just there. It's waiting. You can feel its attention, if a door can even have such a thing. It's not an inanimate slab of wood anymore, it's aware. A sound draws you closer. Not loud, but impossible to ignore. It's like the faint scrape of something moving inside the walls, a dragging whisper that pauses whenever you pause. Then, scrape. And then, the faint, unmistakable sound of a latch clicking, not all the way open, but just enough to suggest an invitation. You can't stop your feet from moving forward, the old floorboards groaning under your weight. You swear you're being careful, but each step feels amplified in the thick, charged air. The shadows in the hallway have grown, stretching like spilled ink toward you. The single overhead light flickers once. When you finally reach the door, your hand hovers over the knob, though you don't remember deciding to reach for it. You should turn away, go back, forget this. But there's a subtle warmth coming from the wood, as if the door itself is breathing. And then, for the first time, you hear it, not in your ears exactly, but in your head. A voice without words, speaking directly into the deepest folds of your mind. It doesn't tell you to open it. It doesn't have to. It simply suggests, in a tone that feels both comforting and wrong, that you've already decided. You're already part of this. You've always been part of this. Your fingertips brush the doorknob, and a shiver runs up your arm, not cold, but alive, as though something on the other side has noticed your touch and is touching you back. The metal is warmer than it should be. You imagine it beating faintly, like a pulse, in sync with your own heartbeat. Suddenly, a sharp noise breaks through the trance, 3 hard knocks on the inside of the door. They're not urgent, not aggressive, but measured, deliberate. You stumble backward, your breath catching. The air in the hallway shifts, and you smell something faint but undeniable, damp earth, old wood, and something else, sweet, like rotting fruit. You try to speak, to call out, to ask who's there, but the words die in your throat. Your body feels wrong, heavier, as though gravity has increased just for you. The space between you and the door stretches and contracts in strange ways, like a long hallway in a dream that refuses to keep its shape. Then, it happens. The doorknob turns. Slowly. Deliberately. Not by your hand. You freeze, watching as it clicks halfway, then stops. The silence afterward is unbearable. And then, a thin line of darkness appears at the edge where the door should meet the frame. Not the kind of darkness you see in shadows, this is darker than dark, an absence that swallows the light around it. It's wrong in a way that makes your skin crawl. It doesn't open any further. It doesn't have to. Because that's when the voice in your mind grows clearer, louder. And now it does speak words, soft and deliberate, in a tone that feels like someone leaning close enough for you to feel their breath. It's time. And just like that, your fear and curiosity fuse into something new, a strange, trembling anticipation. You realize the door has been patient with you all this time. Waiting for you to be ready. And now, it thinks you are. The storm has quieted, but the house is no less oppressive. You sit on the floor outside the door, legs crossed, knees stiff from the cold that seeps upward from the wood. The single candle you lit earlier has melted halfway down, its wax spilling over like coagulated tears. Shadows twitch along the hallway walls, and every time you glance toward them, they seem to shrink back into themselves, retreating like caught eavesdroppers. The door, unchanged in its posture, still hums with that faint vibration you've begun to feel not with your ears, but with your bones. You lean in. The wood feels warmer than it should, as if someone on the other side is breathing against it. Then it happens, so quiet you almost think it's your imagination. A voice. Not the kind you'd hear through walls or from another room, muffled and indistinct. This voice feels inside your head, but localized, centered directly beyond the thin barrier of the door. It's low, syllables curling into themselves, the language unrecognizable but carrying an undeniable intention. You can't translate the words, but they carry a weight that lands in your chest, pushing air out of your lungs. You whisper back without thinking, just a simple, trembling, "Who's there?" It's a mistake. The voice stills for a heartbeat, then answers, and though you can't understand the language, your body does. Every instinct you have shrieks that the answer is not only for you but about you, as though the voice is telling you something you've always known but forced yourself to forget. The house groans, not from the wind, but from within, as if its bones are shifting. The hum inside the door swells. For a dizzy moment, you think the wood is bending inward, flexing toward you like a living muscle. Your candle sputters, threatening to drown in its own wax, and you find yourself scooting backward without making the decision to move. The voice doesn't stop. It becomes softer but more insistent, like someone speaking to you in a dream when you're halfway between waking and sleep. The words wrap around your thoughts, squeezing out your own inner voice until all that remains is the cadence, the rhythm, the lure. You force yourself up and retreat halfway down the hall, pressing your back against the wall. You try covering your ears, but it doesn't matter, the sound lives somewhere deeper. And here's the most terrifying realization: the voice is not trying to scare you away. It's coaxing you closer. Then, for the first time, you hear your own name spoken, not aloud in the traditional sense, but deep in your skull, pronounced in a tone so personal and intimate it feels like a lover whispering in the dark. Your candle dies, and the hallway becomes a suffocating tunnel of black. Somewhere in that void, the voice promises, without using a single word you know, that it has been waiting. And now, it says, it's almost time. The house is so quiet that your own breathing feels too loud. You stand there in the upstairs hallway, your back pressed against the wall, and you listen, not for footsteps, not for voices, but for the door. It has been closed for as long as you can remember. Tonight, it feels alive. At first, you think it's the wind. You've told yourself that before. Old houses expand and contract. Floorboards groan. Drafts sneak through old window frames. But wind doesn't sound like this. This sound is softer, wetter, like the inhale and exhale of something enormous but trying to hide the fact it's breathing. It's faint, almost undetectable unless you focus on it. But when you do, you wish you hadn't. Because now it's all you hear. The door is still closed. It always is. But in the low light from the hallway bulb, you swear the outline of the frame seems thicker, like the wood itself has swelled, not in a warped, rotting way, but in a way that makes it seem like something is pressing against it from the other side. You stand frozen for what feels like an hour, every muscle in your body taut. Your heart is pounding, not the normal kind of pounding when you're startled, but a heavy, dragging beat that seems to sync with the rhythm of the breath behind that door. You can't tell which came first, your pulse or its inhale, but now the two are intertwined. You finally force yourself to look away, but the sound follows you. You walk down the hallway to your bedroom, shut the door, and sit on the bed. Your phone is in your hand, though you don't remember grabbing it. You think about calling someone, but you can't imagine explaining what you've just heard without sounding like you've completely lost it. You tell yourself to just go to bed. Tomorrow you'll laugh about it. But when you switch off the bedside lamp and the room falls into darkness, you realize you've made a mistake. The sound hasn't stopped. It's no longer muffled by the hallway. Now it's in your room, subtle, slow, deliberate. The breaths are closer, as if the space between your bed and the door has collapsed while you weren't looking. You keep your eyes shut at first, hoping, praying, that it's just your imagination. But then something happens that forces them open. The air changes. It's warmer now, heavy with a faint, damp scent, like wet stone or soil freshly unearthed. The kind of smell that belongs underground, not in a bedroom. Your fingers tighten on the bedsheet as your instincts scream to move, to turn on the light, to do something. You open your eyes, and the room looks the same as always, except the shadows are deeper, thicker, and they're not where they should be. On the far wall, a tall, narrow shadow stretches vertically, the same shape and size as the door at the end of the hallway. But there's no door there. And as you stare at it, the shadow inhales. You can hear it. You can see the faint movement of its edges as if the frame itself is expanding. You try to scream, but your throat locks, the sound caught somewhere in your chest. The shadow exhales, and the smell intensifies. For a moment, you're certain it's going to step forward, that it's going to pull itself free of the wall and cross the room toward you. But instead, it stays still. Waiting. It takes you several seconds to realize the truth, it's not coming to you. It's waiting for you to come to it. You don't remember falling asleep, but somehow you wake up the next morning with the faint memory of having stood in front of that shadow in the dark, staring into it for what felt like hours. You're not sure if it was a dream. But the hallway door. When you pass it on your way downstairs, you notice something that stops you in your tracks. The doorknob is wet. The door, now ajar, offers a glimpse into something that is not a storage closet at all. Instead of dusty boxes and forgotten coats, you see a narrow hallway lined with dark, paneled walls, the air inside thick with the same breathless stillness you've come to dread. Your feet move of their own accord, the wooden floorboards groaning faintly as you step closer. You push the door further open, its hinges releasing a drawn-out moan, and your eyes adjust to the gloom. At the far end of this narrow hallway, there's something large and rectangular leaning against the wall. At first, you think it's just a tall wardrobe, but as your eyes sharpen, you see your own silhouette staring back. It's a mirror, an enormous, ancient-looking mirror framed in tarnished silver, its surface rippling subtly like water disturbed by a faint breeze. You feel a pull from it, almost physical, as though something on the other side is reaching for you. The glass is dim, reflecting your face in fractured clarity, but it's not your current expression staring back, it's a frozen version of you, smiling faintly, eyes too wide. That reflection blinks out of sync with your own eyes. You step back, breath quickening, but the figure in the glass steps forward. Not a perfect mimic, its smile stretches wider now, unnaturally so, revealing teeth that are not quite right. You glance over your shoulder, but the hallway behind you is gone. The doorframe now opens into the same hallway you're standing in, as if you've stepped into a loop. The air feels heavier, colder, and the mirror's surface starts to ripple more violently. From somewhere deep in its silver depths, a muffled whisper reaches your ears. You can't make out the words, but the tone is urgent, pleading. The reflection presses its hands to the glass, palms flat, inviting you to do the same. Your own hands tremble, but they lift almost of their own accord, fingertips brushing the icy surface. The moment your skin meets the glass, the reflection's smile vanishes, replaced by an expression of pure hunger. The ripple turns to a whirl, the silver liquid twisting, pulling your fingers deeper. The harder you try to pull away, the stronger the tug becomes. Then, in a sudden shock of movement, the reflection grabs your wrist. It's no longer inside the mirror, it's leaning halfway out of it, its grip cold and clammy. You stumble, falling against the mirror's surface, and it swallows your arm up to the elbow. The whispers rise in pitch, becoming a dissonant chorus that vibrates in your bones. The thing's face, your face, comes close enough for you to see the cracks in its skin, the fine hairline fractures spreading like spiderwebs. And then, with a violent yank, it tries to pull you through entirely. You brace your feet against the hallway floor, but the sensation is impossible, like being dragged by a current inside solid metal. For one terrifying moment, your vision fractures, showing two places at once, the dark hallway you stand in, and an endless, black expanse behind the glass, where countless other figures, other versions of you, stand silently, their eyes fixed on you. You wrench yourself back with a desperate burst of strength, stumbling onto the hallway floor. The mirror shudders, the ripples subsiding until the surface is once again still and reflective. But the reflection doesn't return to normal, it remains standing at the glass, head tilted, smiling again. This time, its lips move, forming words you can't hear. The pull is gone, but so is the door back to your house. The only path left is deeper into the hallway, toward the mirror that's still waiting for you. The air in the hallway has grown heavy, as though the house itself is holding its breath. You stand at the far end, just within reach of the banister, and you swear you can see the door at the end of the hallway pulse, not open, not shake, but expand and contract, as though there's a slow, shallow breathing behind it. You tell yourself it's a trick of the light, a shadow cast by the dim hallway lamp, but every time your gaze leaves it and then returns, the movement is still there. The sound in the house changes at night now. It's no longer the gentle settling of wood or the faint hum of the refrigerator below, it's softer, more organic. Sometimes, a faint rhythmic sighing reaches your ears, as though the door itself is exhaling. It is neither warm nor cold, but there's a sensation on your skin when you pass that feels like the whisper of air moving across your flesh. You start avoiding that part of the hallway, detouring through other rooms to reach the stairs, but no matter how carefully you avoid it, the door seems to find a way into your awareness. Sleep becomes harder. Your dreams grow more vivid, saturated with strange images you can't fully remember upon waking. You wake in the early hours with your heart hammering, convinced something just passed outside your bedroom door. Once, when you gather the courage to look, you find the door at the end of the hallway cracked open, only slightly, no more than an inch, but enough to reveal absolute blackness beyond. You freeze, unable to move, your mind screaming at you to shut it, but the thought of touching it fills you with a primal dread. It takes until morning for you to confirm that the door is once again closed, exactly as it should be, latch facing forward. No one else in the house claims to have touched it, and they laugh when you mention the breathing. But you know what you saw. Or at least, you think you do. From this moment onward, the hallway no longer feels like part of your home, it feels like a thin border between your life and something else entirely. The first night you hear them, you think it's mice. Faint, delicate scratching, as though tiny claws are dragging across wood. The sound is coming from the other side of the door. You lie in bed, straining to hear, but it doesn't stop, it just keeps going, a slow, deliberate dragging that rises and falls in irregular patterns, as if something on the other side is testing the surface. By the second night, the sound changes. Now it's accompanied by a slow tap, 2 taps, a pause, then 3 taps, always in the same sequence. You record it on your phone, but in the morning when you play it back, the sound is gone, replaced only by silence. The third night, you make the mistake of standing close to the door. You press your ear to it, holding your breath. For the first 30 seconds, there's nothing, only silence, heavy and suffocating. Then, directly where your ear rests, there's a single, sharp tap, followed by the unmistakable sound of something breathing on the other side. Not a human breath, this one is deeper, wetter, with a strange gurgle to it, as though its lungs are filled with water. Your instincts scream at you to back away, and you do, stumbling against the wall. The door doesn't open. The sound stops. You spend the rest of the night sitting upright in bed, watching the faint strip of light beneath your bedroom door, waiting for it to change. The first night you hear them, you think it's mice. Faint, delicate scratching, as though tiny claws are dragging across wood. The sound is coming from the other side of the door. You lie in bed, straining to hear, but it doesn't stop, it just keeps going, a slow, deliberate dragging that rises and falls in irregular patterns, as if something on the other side is testing the surface. By the second night, the sound changes. Now it's accompanied by a slow tap, 2 taps, a pause, then 3 taps, always in the same sequence. You record it on your phone, but in the morning when you play it back, the sound is gone, replaced only by silence. The third night, you make the mistake of standing close to the door. You press your ear to it, holding your breath. For the first 30 seconds, there's nothing, only silence, heavy and suffocating. Then, directly where your ear rests, there's a single, sharp tap, followed by the unmistakable sound of something breathing on the other side. Not a human breath, this one is deeper, wetter, with a strange gurgle to it, as though its lungs are filled with water. Your instincts scream at you to back away, and you do, stumbling against the wall. The door doesn't open. The sound stops. You spend the rest of the night sitting upright in bed, watching the faint strip of light beneath your bedroom door, waiting for it to change. The first time you hear it, you convince yourself it's the wind through the vents. The second time, you tell yourself it's a trick of half-sleep. But the third time, there's no denying it. The whisper is soft, almost gentle, and it says your name with perfect clarity. You freeze in bed, heart pounding, waiting for it again. And then it comes, from the hallway, right outside your door, your name, stretched, drawn out, almost like it's savoring the syllables. It repeats it 3 times, each one quieter than the last, until you almost believe it's gone, until it's suddenly right next to your ear, though you're alone in the room. The air is cold against your neck, and the whisper lingers in your mind even after it fades. You don't sleep at all that night. One evening, you return home to find the door wide open. You freeze at the top of the stairs, staring into the pitch-black space beyond it. The inside looks wrong, too deep, too dark, as though the space is larger than it should be. Something shifts inside, just beyond the darkness. You see nothing, but you feel the movement, like the pressure change when someone walks past you. Slowly, without a sound, the door swings shut again, latching as though it had never been open. You can't bring yourself to walk past it for the rest of the night. The house itself changes. The usual night sounds are replaced by faint, deliberate movements, creaks that travel in patterns, as though footsteps are moving through the walls. You start hearing the sound of slow breathing from behind the walls of your bedroom. Once, you hear something brush the underside of your bed. The hallway feels different now, as though the walls have pulled closer overnight. Your bare feet press against the wood floor, and you swear the grain beneath your toes has shifted direction, as though the house is subtly reassembling itself while you're not looking. The door at the end of the hall is still closed, but tonight, there's a sound. Not the creak of wood or the sigh of old pipes, but a voice. It's faint, almost conversational, as though someone is speaking directly on the other side, but not to you. The words aren't in any language you know, yet their cadence feels deliberate, intimate, and oddly rhythmic. You lean closer, your ear nearly touching the cold surface of the door. The voice pauses, and for the briefest moment, you think it has sensed you. Your breath catches. Then it speaks again, softer this time, almost like a whisper, and you realize the sound is not muffled by the door at all. It's as if it's inside your own head, threading through your thoughts like smoke. The whispers wrap around your memories, tugging at fragments you didn't realize you had forgotten, an old dream about a black hallway, a childhood game that ended with you waking up in a strange part of the house, a memory of seeing this door open once but not remembering what was inside. You stagger back, but the voice lingers in your skull. It doesn't shout, doesn't threaten, but it feels like it's telling you something important, something you're supposed to remember. And in the stillness, with the ticking clock echoing down the hallway, you realize that maybe, it's not trying to keep you away. It might be trying to bring you in. That night, sleep takes you quickly, too quickly. You don't remember closing your eyes. You don't remember the point when the dark of your bedroom shifted into something else entirely. You're standing in the upstairs hallway again, but everything feels wrong. The air is thicker, carrying a metallic tang like rust and rain. The walls are no longer the soft beige you've always known, they're black, slick, and pulsing faintly, as though alive. The door at the end of the hallway is wide open, but no light comes from within. You hear your own footsteps, but they don't match your movement. You take a step, the sound of it echoes 3 times. You feel watched, though there's no one in sight. The dream pulls you forward, your body moving without your consent. You approach the open door, and as you look inside, you see another hallway. This one stretches impossibly far, lined with dozens of identical doors. All are closed, except one, the last one, just barely ajar. A soft glow seeps through the crack, the kind of glow that makes your heart pound because it feels both inviting and dangerous. Your hand rises to touch the nearest closed door. It's warm, warmer than your own skin, and as your palm rests there, you feel a slow heartbeat on the other side. You pull away, unsettled, and turn toward the glowing door at the far end. The air grows heavier as you walk toward it, your breath coming shorter with each step. When you reach it, you see movement through the crack, a shadow pacing slowly back and forth, too tall to be human. Before you can push it open, the hallway bends, the walls twist like paper, and the floor falls out from under you. You wake in your bed, drenched in sweat, heart still pounding, the image of the glowing door burned into your mind. The following day, you try to dismiss the dream, telling yourself it's just your mind processing the strange tension that's been building in the house. But as evening falls, you notice something you can't explain. The door, the one at the end of the hallway, is not in the same place. You blink, thinking it's a trick of perspective, but the measurements are wrong. It used to be flush against the right corner of the hall, but now it sits a foot further inward, as if the wall has stretched or the door has slid like a piece on a chessboard. You test your memory, recalling every detail of the hallway, the exact number of floorboards between the bathroom door and the mysterious one, the placement of the overhead light, the angle of the baseboard trim. They've all shifted slightly, as if the hallway itself has been rearranged. When you stand before the door, you see that its surface looks subtly different, the wood grain swirls in new patterns, shapes that almost resemble faces in profile. You blink, and the patterns shift again, faster this time, until they blur. A rush of dizziness hits you, and you grab the doorknob for balance. It's warm. Very warm. You pull your hand away immediately, your fingertips tingling as if you've touched a living thing. The voice from before doesn't come tonight, but you sense it. Watching. Waiting. And you realize something terrifying: if the door can move, it can get closer to you. It happens without ceremony. No dramatic sound, no violent shake of the hinges. You're walking down the hallway late at night, bleary-eyed and half asleep, when you notice the door is open. Just slightly, enough for a sliver of darkness to seep out like ink into water. The air changes instantly. It's colder now, but also somehow heavier, pressing against your skin like a damp cloth. The shadows inside seem thicker than they should be, absorbing light rather than hiding in its absence. You take one step closer, and a faint draft escapes from the gap, carrying with it a smell, not rot, not mold, but something older, like dust that's been sealed away for centuries. Your hand lifts toward the edge of the door, every instinct in you screaming to stop. But you don't. The gap widens with a slow, silent glide, revealing a darkness so complete it makes your eyes ache. Then, deep within, something moves. You can't make out its shape, only the glint of something wet in the slow, deliberate scrape of nails, or claws, across the floor. The voice returns, clearer than ever, curling around your mind like smoke: it's time. And as the shadows inside stretch toward you, reaching like long fingers into the hallway, you understand, this was never about keeping something locked away. It was about waiting for the right moment to let it out. It was about waiting for the right moment to let it out. It was about waiting for the right moment to let it out.